Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Big and Tiny podcast. I have a cold, so that's going to be fun. We're going to crack on. We're talking about some shit, and I think we were going to sort of address the what is it? It's the popular word at the minute, isn't it? It's optimal. But it's been popular for a long fucking time, but we're sort of seeing it. It ebbs and flows in terms of what people think is fucking stupid and what people sort of cotton onto. Especially with, I see a lot of pushback from the big guys being like, "Bring bodybuilding back to the bros," and I'm like, "Yes, please."
Yes, let's just bring the bodybuilding back to the old school type shit that we
To
used
the
to do.
bodybuilders and not the children that think they know better.
Yes, exactly. Well, I mean, let's talk about optimal and optimization. You at the moment are not optimal because you're full of a cold. So, you're going to lose all of your gains in a matter of hours, because your sinuses are full and, you're not optimized. So sleep is going to be detrimented because sleep is not going to be optimal because you have a cold.
I did wake
And
up at 4:30 today, to be fair.
Oh, well, yeah, but you woke up early anyway, so I'm not even going to say that kind of thing. But in order to try and optimize that, what you're going to have to do is put some mouth tape on, so mouth taping, and then put the nasal strips on, and to open up your pores. And then you're going to have to leave that nasal strip on now when you train, because again, optimal for airflow and everything else like this. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a massive, massive, massive fan of mouth taping. I really am, because it improves beta oxidation by improving the air moving through your nasal pathways, as opposed to actually being a mouth breather when you snore. I know, you won't
They
die
don't
though.
work.
You won't die. I promise you, you won't die. But just we will come back to optimization. But yeah, mouth taping, massive, massive fan about it. I actually have had three clients in the past who were relying on CPAPs in order to obviously keep their airways open. And I made them transition over into using mouth tape, specific tape as well. And do you know what it's called? Hostage tape.
Hostage tape.
Hostage tape. So
Right.
pretend you're a hostage
Is this
and
from the
tape
is
your
this
mouth
from
off.
the terrorist shop or
Exactly, yeah, yeah. But you can get it on Amazon. It's
no, the terrorist
actually,
shop? Yeah.
yeah, the terrorist shop. But it's actually called hostage tape. And the whole reason as to why we try and encourage nasal breathing and nasal breathing only is because it does encourage beta oxidation, which is teaching your body how to burn fat at rest. Now, if you can get really, really good at nasal breathing, you will find that you are a hell of a lot clearer. You're going to be less tired, because if you do breathe through your mouth, which obviously we know you do because you snore like a bear, especially when you come into the later stages of prep, and
Most of the
probably
off season, you just not experienced it.
I have not experienced this. I'm kind of
Okay.
happy about that. But yeah, you will actually get a lot better in terms of reduced brain fog, less fatigue. You'll actually be able to train harder for longer, increase energy pathways, etc., etc. So give it a go. Realistically, the only time that you should be breathing through your mouth is when you do really hard, high intensity training. So when you train, then you can breathe through your mouth. But all of the times, even when you're doing missed cardio, try and actually breathe through your nose. It will help. So top tip of the podcast. I don't know. We might have another top tip. I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah, optimal.
That sounds
It's
like you were trying to be super optimal then.
yes, I was
To be
being
in the
super.
gym like
Let me breathe in.
yeah.
The word optimal, it has been pissing me off in the industry over the last probably week, because I'm seeing a lot of people who are going on with optimizing the angle of the hack squat and the cable and this and that and the other. And do you know what? You know the N1 education guys? You've seen them? Okay, right. Well, they're big on Instagram, and they're big with angles and optimizing the muscle pathway and the elbow pathway and the way that you put the cable across your elbow and blah 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 and all the rest of it. And you know what? I'm not taking anything away from these guys because they're very intelligent, they're very super sciencey, and that is their niche. But have you seen them?
And it's fat.
Yes. They
Yeah.
do not look like they've lifted a dumbbell in their fucking life. And do you know what? Optimizing angles and optimizing cadences and optimizing fucking cables and putting things in different weird places in terms of, drawing the cable cadence across the fucking chest and all the rest of it is only very well and good for somebody who wants to look like that. If you want to look big and jacked and, build a shit ton of muscle like a massive bodybuilder and grow a big chest, pick up some heavy damn weights. Don't be an arse and throw them around the place. You still want to be, moving things with proper form, but going too far into the optimization of everything, I don't know about you, but it's going to drive me fucking nuts to try
I
and
just
get
kind of I just kind
perfection.
of ignore people. Like,
Well,
I see recently people are like the barbell row is a bad exercise for the back, and I'm there like my back is literally built with a barbell row. Like it's my
yeah,
favorite back movement by far. And
by
it's just,
far. In,
and it's just like, why is this child trying to tell me that this doesn't work when I know it works? And this is when we get to the whole thing of people require a study to be able to reassure themselves that something works. And I'm just there
mm,
like, we have a shitload of anecdotal evidence. We know this works,
mm,
and you need it to be codified and studied in order to believe it.
yeah,
It's a bit like, well, what if somebody comes along Emperor's New Clothes style and just invents a study and they've made up all the data because a lot of people do that in order to convince people of their hypothesis because that's the nature of scientific study is a lot of people are just very biased.
mm,
Um, and they just generate a hypothesis. They go, oh, this is how you do it. And then people go off and do it and nothing changes. They're like, no, but it'll happen. It'll happen eventually. And the dude
yeah.
that's been fucking doing barbell rows and dumbbell rows and bench press, he's massive. And you're
Mm.
still the, oh, but I need to get a 40-degree heel angle on my hack squat or I won't grow any quads. Of
I mean, are you actually going to go in with a fucking projector?
course.
Yeah, and really kind of get the correct angle for certain things, fuck
I'm gonna go
off.
squat in stilettos that I've actually wedges that I've made into squat shoes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wear sport shoes anyway because my ankle flexion is shit. Always has been shit. Never. And people who say that they can improve their ankle flexion by doing like a fucking ankle stretch and that kind of shit, it doesn't. It
No.
doesn't work. I've been doing it for years. I've been doing this a very long time. My ankle flexion is still shit. So I'm just gonna wear sport
I
shoes.
found mine was hip flexion because
Mm,
I used to think that whenever you squatted, you had to like arch your back in order to get into it, like people do. And I was
mm.
there like, nah. Eventually, you just figure out that you can actually just get a lot deeper just by keeping your back straight, and it doesn't
Yeah.
hurt your back at all. If anything, it makes it stronger. And you're there like,
Well,
ah,
yeah.
that's fun.
Exactly. I mean, I used to be a power lifter, obviously, and my squat was relatively very heavy for the size that I was because I was a 52-kilo power lifter. So my weight kind of was like around about the 50-kilo mark all the time. And my top squat was 147 and a half for a
That's
one rep. It was a lot. It was a large squat. It
yeah.
wasn't quite 3 times body weight. I really wanted to get that 3 times body weight up there at that point, but didn't do it. So never mind. I'm
I
not going to
definitely
cry.
can't squat 300 kilos. So there we go.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty decent squat, but because of that, my erectors are really fucking strong. And because my erectors are really strong, my glutes kind of like don't fire as well as they should be. So I've had to change my entire squat pattern.
I'm the opposite.
I know your glutes are like fucking massive. Your glutes follow you into the room at the
I am
moment.
the wellness lower body.
You are, and it kind of annoys me. But everybody's setup has to be, designed to them. If you can't squat like a power lifter, then you don't have to squat like a power lifter, as long as you can obviously squat in a position that suits you, where you can get maximum depth, where you can fire your quads, your hamstrings, and your glutes, then you're going to be able to squat. End of story.
Yeah. My favorite
But
one is people are like, oh, you have to squat like a weightlifter. And I'm just there like, do you know how many injuries weightlifters have? Like, they are
oh
all
yeah,
fucked, all of
oh
them.
yeah,
Everything hurts.
all the time.
Yeah. And you're there, and they're like, oh, no, but you have to squat straight down and bolt upright. It's like people who are midgets can squat like that, like who are
Mm,
with that like long torso, short limbs. That's
mm.
what they're made for. That's weightlifters. If you're not that, don't fucking do that. I have long limbs, a short torso. Like, I can't fucking do that.
No, no, you're not built for powerlifting,
No.
unfortunately.
I'm built to look pretty. That's it.
And that's the optimal goal, to
Yeah.
look pretty at the end of the day. But yeah, when it comes to things like your scientific evidence as opposed to anecdotal evidence and that kind of thing, when people are trying to say like, oh well, this person does and barbell rows are bad for your back and blah blah blah, it's probably because they don't know how to fucking barbell row.
Yeah, it's hard to do. People think it's really simple, but a barbell row to get right, I have to teach my clients. One of the movements with clients, I'm there like, right, we need to really fix this because the
Mm,
bar will travel too far away from them, or they'll get the back angle wrong. They're either too upright or they're too far over, and they're thinking that it's an upper back movement
mm,
only. It's like, nah, it hits the whole back, but mostly you want to be getting in the lats. You need to tense your erectors. Like, you need to draw into the crease of your hip, not into your belly button or into your ribs and all this. And people just get it wrong. And it's like, how did I learn how to do this? I watched the guys that were really good at it, and then I went and tried it myself.
mm.
That was it. And then you
And
learn, oh,
it's
that feels right, done. That's all
exactly
it
time,
is.
patience, and practice over the bar. But if we're talking about training, like training optimal angles and all that kind of shit, if we pass it over into the use of drugs, how many scientific studies have we seen with drugs being utilized on
On
humans?
bodybuilders.
Mm, zero.
Yeah.
Like zero.
It's
But
unethical.
of course it's unethical. But the use of drugs, it doesn't really matter. People are just going to go, oh, it's fine because I'm going to use this for optimal gains. Well, how can you
Well,
be
no, we've got like a
optimal?
couple. We've got like the classic testosterone study, which is like they used up to 500 milligram. And
Mm,
the horrendous thing about that study is the people who used 500 gained more muscle. They're like, yeah, but you haven't accounted for any like documentation of side effects.
yeah, yeah,
You haven't reported anything. It's just like,
yeah.
look,
No.
more muscles, so take more. Mm.
And take more testosterone. Yes, okay, that's fine. But all of the other scientific studies that are done in terms of PEDs and that kind of thing are done after the fact. So people are going into hospital with all of these different side effects. And like tachycardic arrhythmia, for an example, right? There was a guy who was like 23 years old, heavily muscled. Well, they say heavily muscled. He didn't even look like he actually took anything, but he was using high dose clenbuterol. And he basically went in with tachycardic arrhythmia and hyperkalemia. And there was a study done after that based on the usage of high dose clenbuterol in a competitive bodybuilder or in somebody who was a bodybuilder. But this was one study, one study.
Anecdotal study.
Exactly, right? So
Don't
it
do
was
this shit because
one
you'll die.
published study.
Done.
That's it. And the thing is that what people are not understanding is that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. And that's what people are kind of missing in terms of the whole drug scene. Yeah, because it's just like, oh, I'll use Tren. Oh my God, had a fucking consultation with a girl yesterday. Her coach put her on Tren. What the fuck? Coach put her on Tren and Masteron.
What was the category she was doing?
Figure.
No.
Yeah, figure. And she was not a big figure person.
Well,
She
that's
was
why
not.
she's getting given master on a train.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous. It really, really
The
is. And this
jaw's
is
going
what
to grow
pisses me off.
quicker than her fucking muscle. She's going to be there
Pisses me
like,
off.
I've had an inch to my quads and four to my clit.
Well, yeah, exactly. But she's lost her hair. She's got this receding hairline now. Obviously, her voice is broken. So she's got a voice like JP. And she's very upset about it. But it's just like, well, unfortunately, you put this kind of shit into your body, and she didn't even know how much she was taking because she
Oh,
said
good.
a shot of Tren and a shot of Masteron. I'm just like, is that like fucking 100 milligrams or something?
Yeah, how big's the barrel? Like,
Yeah, we have no idea. But just because
I go through a bottle every couple of days.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a 3 ml fucking vial. But yeah, like I said, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So even when all of these, optimization guys are doing about the whole angle side of things with training, they've got all of the evidence in terms of scientific literature and blah blah blah. But anecdotally, they look like fucking overgrown Milky Bar kids that's just gone to their next door neighbors for a barbecue or something.
Well, they've got to try and sell an emperor's new clothes, haven't they? They all want a
Mm.
job, so they're all involved in exercise science. And the problem is, the majority of people in exercise science look like fucking absolute baps.
Yeah, they
Like,
do.
that's because that's what they got into. Because they were like, oh, I really like going to the gym, but I want to find the scientific side of thing. Because I went to Loughborough University, so we had a shitload of those people. And I
Mm.
always found they were skinny knobheads, and all of them were self-entitled pricks. And they were all
Isn't
like,
that everybody at Loughborough?
and they were all like, "How are you so big?" And I was like, "Because I fucking train." And I was getting blackout drunk every week. And
Yeah.
they were like, "How are you so big?" And I was like, "Because I fucking train hard." What do you mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it was just one of those, and it was just like, yeah, I read the magazines, Flex magazine, and I copy what they say to do. And granted, a lot of that was stupid now, but like, fucking worked for a bit.
Well,
Um,
it did. I mean, training, this is where people are getting lost in translation with training. I've seen some girls, and they can train their fucking bollocks off. I mean, they train like red rag balls. You know what I mean? But then I've seen some guys who, they're fairly decently muscled. They've been in the industry for a long time, but they're talking about, how to hit a lat pull down absolutely perfectly and optimally, and how to get your sleep optimal and this and they haven't got a fucking life. They don't sleep in the same bed as their missus. They're an absolute arrogant fucking prick because they've got nothing outside of bodybuilding to actually look forward to. Um, and it's like, well, realistically, if you're making things so optimal, why are you such a miserable ass? Why are you such a miserable human? Really? If this is optimizing everything in terms of bodybuilding, is it optimizing your life?
because
Fuck
it's
no.
not real. Perfection doesn't exist.
No, perfection doesn't exist. Progress over everything. Okay, progress over living
We're
is
not going to
this.
progress then, are you? You'll just get lost in the minute details and never actually get any better.
No, you've got to be able to switch off. Like I was having a conversation with one of my other guys the other day, a big IFBB pro bodybuilder, and I said, mate, you just need to chill the fuck out. Go and take your missus out on a date. So now every single week, they're actually having a date night, and it's no phones, no bodybuilding, no nothing. Because realistically, when was the last time that you actually sat down with your missus and talked about anything else other than bodybuilding? And he
Well,
was like,
if you're a bodybuilder as well, if you're both bodybuilders, it's really hard. I've dated a bodybuilder before, and it just everything becomes about bodybuilding. And I have quite a few other hobbies, but if
mm,
they don't, then it's like, oh well, like, it's just everything's bodybuilding all the
it
time,
is all the
and you
fucking.
just get to a point you're like, this is fucking boring.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're both bodybuilders. We see each other quite a lot of the time, but when we chill out and we have well, I like our road trips or what have you like that, we don't talk just about bodybuilding. We talk about
No.
lots and lots of things. And when you're stressed out or when you need a deload or what have you like that, you don't just sit around and act like a potato. I tell you to go play golf. So
Yep.
you go get a couple of balls around and that kind of stuff. There's so much more to being a bodybuilder than just optimizing fucking everything. And people don't understand the word optimal. Optimal is actually having a little bit of a life outside of bodybuilding. I mean, let's face it, what is bodybuilding? Eating, training, and sleeping. Yes, it is. Yes, you can be bang on with your meals. Yes, you can be bang on with your training. Yes, you can be bang on with your sleep. That's also life because you can have exercise, you can eat food with your family, and you can fucking sleep like a baby. Still
Yeah.
life.
I think it harkens to like, so if anybody's ever is watching this has ever been involved in like high level sport outside of bodybuilding, say you were a weightlifter or, for example, me, a rower, the old school way of sports that were taught in the 80s, 90s, and before then was you have got to be like a Spartan. Like you are just, this is all you think about, that you live and breathe this, you don't do anything else. Really good example is to look at how the Russian weightlifters were, all the Bulgarian weightlifters as well, and they came up with that whole like Smolov program, and
Mm,
it just broke people. They were just doing 95% max lifts all the time, and all they did was train 2 to 3 times a day, and you had to be there and recovered. And if you didn't turn up, you were out the team, and you
yeah.
didn't really get time off, and it just broke people. And the few that survived, yeah, they were great, but they also abused the living fuck out of drugs, and the majority of them didn't survive more than one Olympic cycle.
Mm,
So
mm.
it's just like you haven't actually, you're not doing this for the love of the sport. You're doing this solely because you believe it will lead to success. And if that's how you want to operate, destroy your life and your body in order to achieve a certain goal. The thing is, you'll get to the end of the goal and go, well, I don't want to fucking do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
So you
absolutely.
won't have done it because you like doing it and you want to keep doing it. You'll just be like, fuck this. I don't want to do this
Mm.
shit anymore. And that was me,
There's that was you rowing. Yeah, you died.
except I didn't see the success.
There's also things in terms of like optimizing your gut health, right? Now you know that I'm massive on gut health. I'm massive on nutrition. That is my bag. Because bottom line is without a fully functioning gut, without a fully functioning kidney and liver and thyroid, then realistically you're not going to be a very good bodybuilder because everything is synergistic. But people who go on about optimal gut health and haven't got a fucking clue what they're talking about, that again is another thing that pisses me off.
Kimchi, just eat
Oh,
kimchi. That's
just
how.
eat kimchi.
Yeah.
But the thing is, right, with kimchi, right, here you go, another top tip. Add kimchi to your diet. Why are we adding kimchi to your diet? Because it is a fermented food. It doesn't have to be kimchi. It can be sauerkraut. It can be kefir. Everything is based around fermentation. However, if you are an unhealthy bodybuilder who has abused the shit out of orals or you are on cycle and that kind of thing, you are going to be a breeding ground of bacteria in your small intestine. So, which means that you are going to have some positive signs of SIBO, also standing for, please tell me what it is,
No,
Alex.
you say what it is because I don't fucking know.
You do know, I went through it on your mentoring.
I can't
Small,
remember.
small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
There you go.
So, bacterial overgrowth. Now, if you are going to be, all of our guts have bacteria in them. If you are going to be feeding your gut with more fermented foods when you already have an overgrowth of bacteria, guess what that fermented food is going to do?
Turn him into a zombie.
Yes, exactly. It's going to feed the bacteria that is already
You
there.
become a brewery, yes.
You become a brewery of all of this fermented bacteria. So just because the top pros and things like that are adding kimchi to their diet or sauerkraut to their diet, they haven't got a clue whether or not their gut is actually healthy, especially if they're running a heavy cycle. So possibly not one of the only things that you can do in terms of optimizing your gut health. The other thing that I've seen recently, full day of eating videos, fucking piss me off.
They're
Oh
boring.
my God. It's first of all fucking boring as a bodybuilder because you eat the same fucking meals all of the time and nothing is like screaming gut health at all. Or they're having meals which are loaded with kimchi, loaded with sauerkraut. They down their fucking kefir in the morning, and then at the end of the night when they have their bowl of oats, cream of rice, or fucking yogurt, they put all of this skinny syrup all over it, which is basically a chemical shitstorm in a bottle because all it is sugar alcohols, chemicals, salt, and water. And then they wonder why they have bloated stomachs and they stink like a farmyard. That's not optimizing your gut health, is it?
No.
No, sorry, it really pisses me off. The whole thing about the full day of eating videos. Like, I think I must have seen just as I was scrolling, because, before me and Alex get on these podcasts, we always kind of say, what are we talking about today? We just kind of wing it
What
because
is
we just
annoying us?
what is annoying us on the social medias? As I scrolled through, I swear I must have seen about 17 full day of eating videos. And some were okay, some were like from like really, really skinny chicks who don't eat anything but fucking fish and lettuce.
Well, they do dust.
Yes, I don't eat anything. And they drink the majority of their meals. I'm like, how
We'll
fucking are
have a
you
water for
starving?
lunch.
Yeah, it's just, and then you've got like big guys who are eating 5,000 calories, 400 grams of protein, and then he's like, this is what I eat to look like a gorilla. I'm like, you look fat. You don't look like a gorilla, you look
Well,
fat.
gorillas do have a pot belly. What do you
Oh, they
mean?
do have a pot belly. You're absolutely true. But all of these full day of eating videos, these piss me off because it basically allows the younger generation who are looking up to big bodybuilders and kind of say, oh, maybe I should eat that. Maybe I should
Oh,
eat that.
yeah. This is where people learn these days. Is from YouTube, and it's no. This is why handing out pro cards like fucking sweets is a problem. Because people look up to IFBB pros, and when you get anybody get handed a pro card like that, it gives people this ability to talk about bodybuilding. And even if there's somebody that maybe necessarily got one by chance or fluke, and let's not sit here and pretend that that doesn't happen and be like,
Mm,
oh no, but everybody doesn't matter how you won your pro card. Yeah, it fucking does because it translates directly to how well you do as a pro. So let's shut
mm,
the fuck up about that. If you got an easy pro card, you're probably going to be a shit pro for a long time. Uh,
mm.
so anyway, but yeah, it gives you some authority to speak on bodybuilding, and a lot of people will just pick and choose who their favorite bodybuilder is because of the way they look, the way they talk, etc. It's influencing at the end of the day. It's a popularity contest.
Mm.
So it trickles down. And, every kid getting into bodybuilding these days who's watched a couple of those videos will be like, oh, yeah, well, I have my cereal before I go to the gym, and then I have my cereal when I get back from the gym, and then I'll have chicken, rice, and pineapple, and then I'll have that again, and then I'll have that one more time, and I've got to get
The Rice
300
Krispies
grams of
forever.
protein in every day because I'm a bodybuilder.
Mm. My son is 15, right? He's going to turn 16 in February. And he said to me, Mum, can we get some whole milk? I'm like, why are we having whole milk? We don't need whole milk. And he's like, Sam Sulek drinks whole milk. I'm like, mate, you don't need to eat like Sam Sulek.
Do
He's
you,
like, no,
do you
I
want to
should be
start taking
eating.
2 grams of gear as well?
Yeah, it's like I should be eating this and I should be eating that and I should be eating this because that's what he eats. I'm like, yeah, he also runs a lot of fucking gear. And I'm not being funny, babe. Look at him. Don't get me wrong, he's a great kid. He's made a lot of money being on YouTube. He doesn't ever need to compete as a bodybuilder because what's the fucking point? He doesn't need to.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to. But his skin is terrible. He's got dreadful
He had
acne.
acne to begin with, but it's definitely way worse.
Way worse, way worse. He eats like a child, like an
He does
actual
have the palate of a baby.
Yeah, completely.
Like I saw him
He's
do
good
like what
shit.
was it was like cheeseburgers, or was it like sandwiches, and he counted his fat source as like proper fat mayo.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh good. Why don't you just eat some eggs? Like why do you need highly processed fats? Like
But I
but then
don't think
that's
he
why his
actually
skin's
eats.
fucking terrible too. Like
I don't think he eats like a proper meal in his entire day of eating, does
probably
he? I
milk.
think Yeah, but that's still not real food. That's ultra processed
Of
food.
course, it's not real food. It's elite fake food.
I think he just has elite fake stuff.
Yes.
But I mean this is like a 15-year-old kid who's looking up to Sam Sulek just because he's got a massive following on YouTube. I didn't even know who that kid was, as in like Sam Sulek before Lizzle obviously told me about him. And then I watched one of his videos. I'm like, mate, this guy is an absolute idiot. Like an idiot. He's great on social media and he's got a great following, he's got great YouTube, but he is actually an idiot. And he's taking that much fucking drugs. There's no way that you're gonna look like that just
That's
by
why.
eating
That's
bread
why.
and
I mean, as well as the whole legality issues in America of talking about drugs, like obviously they're not going to talk about it, but yeah, kids love him just because he's a personality, and whether that's good or bad, like he may have inspired people to get in the gym. And he
Mm,
doesn't talk about his gear. If he did talk about how much gear he was running, that would be a problem because
mm.
it would encourage kids to do the same because kids are stupid at the end of the day.
Yes.
And I
And
see
highly
there's
influenced.
loads of stuff on TikTok, especially of kids, young guys, 18, 19, and I've seen guys who one lad was running like 3 or 4 grams of gear, and I'm talking like Test, Decker, Tren, Ment, and yeah, all together. And like a shitload of each. And he was just like, oh, well, I'll just grow my gyno until I can afford to get it cut out. And he doesn't get
What?
any bigger because he trains like shit and eats like shit and barely sleeps. And obviously, taking that amount of drugs, the amount of side effects you can get from that, he was just sort of like clearly, like, obviously not mentally that well, clearly a rather unstable, couldn't really afford to do this, but he just wanted YouTube clout. And this is what they go for. It's all chasing the views and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, there's a you can get onto the whole sort of problems with social media and obviously performance enhancing drugs and people talking or not talking about them. I had a chat with don't know if you know him, Doctor, not Mike Israetel, but different Mike. He's UK based. I can't remember his fucking full name on Instagram.
Dr. Mike the second. Yes.
He asked me on a Q&A, do you think that the chat about like the openness of people about steroids these days has negatively or positively affected the industry? And
Mm,
you come to the conclusion that it has just widened the scope of things. So say that's bad, that's good. We've got more good from the element of more education. We've also got a lot more bad from people going, well, pros take 4 grams, so I'll take 4 grams. And they're not even, they're fresh in the gym.
mm,
So there is, when you talk about like optimization of gear, people who are of the mentality of fuck optimal, they take it to levels which people in the 90s would have gone, you're going to die if you do that. Like NASA was pushing the boat out, taking 2 grams of test, and he was
mm,
fucking massive as amongst
mm.
everything else. And Dorian was like, I did it for a few weeks and it was horrible. So I dropped it back down to my usual gram.
But
Um,
you see, this is the thing again, and it's I keep on coming back to it and reverting back to it. There is no optimal steroid cycle, right? There is not. Steroids are not safe in any fucking dose, whether you're taking a little dose, whether you're taking a big dose. Everything has a side effect.
the problem is
Whether you're
you've said that. So people will go, well, I'll just take as much as I need to then because it's not safe anyway. Bodybuilding, that's the
well,
excuse. Bodybuilding isn't healthy, so I'll just run 3 grams.
well, run 3 grams if you want to, but on your head be it. But bottom line is everybody's
Literally,
steroid
as the hair
cycle.
comes back.
Yeah, exactly. And the moves kind of come on, and then you're going to go and fly to Turkey to go and get your boobs cut out. But the thing is that your steroid cycle should be as unique to you as your fingerprint and nothing more. It's as simple as that. You run a small cycle because we know that you aromatize the shit out of it and you feel like shit on high doses of PEDs. We know this, and you don't perform. You blow with water. You are just highly susceptible to side effects of gear. End of story. So we don't push gear with you. There is a
Even
very,
like
very
even orals, like if I take Winstrol, my stomach's like, can you fuck off, please?
hmm. But again, people are just like, yeah, but this is the blanket approach that we use. It's a typical bodybuilder approach. Fine. You use a small amount because we know that anything above a certain limit you will not react well to. So you're not going to perform your best. You're not going to sleep your best. You're not going to get your food in. And let's face it, food, sleep, and rest is the most anabolic thing that you can do to your body.
And
But
the
then
thing
in
is, I know it's probably arrogant to say, but I've had it from a lot of people in an anecdotal response of
Mm,
people going, until you turned pro on the cycle I did, 0.5 gram, we didn't think it was possible. And loads of
mm,
people said to me who had really struggled with health, came to me and was like, you were the reason that and one lad, he got his pro card and he was like, you were the reason that I went for it and thought I could do it because I could didn't need to use as much and still get a pro card. And he got his in.
Mm. But you can look better on less, but it depends on what you react to. You're on a small cycle. I've got smaller guys, lighter guys than you who have to have more.
Yeah.
But it's specific to them. It's not just this blanket approach. It's like the second you put testosterone into your body, oh, here you go, take an AI. Why are we taking an AI straight away? We had this conversation in our mentoring the other day about what AIs are, what actual estrogen does to your body, what different types of AIs there are, whether men should use them, whether women can use them, whether women should use them, what happens if a woman takes one, and that kind of stuff. People don't understand the pharmacokinetics of AIs, but they just automatically assume, well, it's all right, I'm going to give you testosterone. You will aromatize that. So we're just going to give you an AI as
Yeah.
well.
We're planning on side effects occurring with the amount you're taking, so I'm going to give you something to try and prevent them. Even though it doesn't prevent them, it just masks them.
Absolutely. There's a lot of masking going around.
Well, that's the same. That's everything, isn't
It
it?
is. There's a lot of band-aids. There's only so many band-aids that you can put on a cut before it still continues to bleed.
Yeah.
And that unfortunately is what's going on in the industry. And the ped usage these days is not optimal. I'm going to use the word. It's not optimal because people are just using a blanket approach. The amount of people who come to me saying, Vicky, I just need you to fix me, it's absurd and it's sad. And it makes me really fucking angry. Like this girl who was given Tren and fucking Masteron. What the fuck was going through that coach's head to
I,
think that this
I
needed
find
to be
the
passed?
funny thing is we get all this stuff come through from what you would consider to be the mainstream top level, whatever you want to call it, coaches. We
Mm,
get a load of people come across and be like, I need help. My health is fucked. I feel terrible. They say their health is fucked. They don't know why. They can't read their own bloods, and their previous coach couldn't read their own bloods. And they haven't got a reason for why they're not getting bigger. They don't understand what's going on. They can't get lean. They feel terrible, this, that, and the other. And it always turns up and you end up being like, well, I'm the person that has to fix all this because I'm the only person that does it. All these
mm,
people have lost those clients. They never get a bad word said about them. They never get
mm.
any retort and be like, this person fucked me up. They're like, oh no, I don't want to piss them off or anything like that. And it's just like, maybe we should fucking say something and be like,
Mhm.
look, these practices, which obviously are copy and paste, are replicated with every single client. There is no differentiation. You all get the same fucking training program, um,
Mm,
and you all get the same drug stack. You all get the same shit, and the ones that it works for, you guys do well. You guys get on the Instagram. You get shown. The guys that
mm,
don't, you disappear. You never happened. You weren't real. You drop out. So there is this massive, untalked about undercurrent of guys who just miss the mark because of XYZ reason, usually because they're getting pushed too hard on drugs. It's not appropriate to them. And we don't hear the conversation because it's bad for business. But when they turn around to someone like yourself, and you're there like, right, I've got fucking 10 people to fix this month, or this season, I've had however many people come in and be like, my health needs fixing. And then the worst part of it is not getting the credit for it because people don't want to talk about it.
yeah, I know, because they don't want
Because
to
they're
piss off.
scared to talk about it because they're afraid of what the person that did it to them may respond with.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, example, low iron. Somebody who is on obviously a competition prep or even coming out of the competition prep, blood's come back, low iron, feels like shit, really tired, really lethargic all the time. Old coach says it's fine, just have more red meat, and have an iron supplement. Okay, first of all, that's a ridiculous thing to do. Yes, you can have red meat, but have you actually looked at the bloods and seen in between the lines? So yes, iron is very, very low, but what about the absorption of that iron? It's not the iron that's the issue because the iron capacity is there. But the absorption element is the issue. So rather than just throwing a band-aid on it by saying, here you go, have an iron supplement, which can cause a lot of problems in terms of kidney, in terms of stomach problems, why can't we just use something like lactoferrin? Lactoferrin, again, something that people never have heard of. They don't like using it. What about changing things in terms of your nutritional intake as well as using lactoferrin? because that's not only going to help in terms of the iron absorption, because that's the pathway that we have to fix, and it's not a band-aid, but you're also going to feel a lot better by optimizing your nutritional intake, and not just through obviously high heme elements. Things by diversifying your vegetable intake and stop being a pussy and just fucking eat your vegetables, but also eating things like shellfish, oysters, crab meat, prawns, all
Fish is gross.
this is gross. It's not good
Free
for you.
vegetables are hot. There are adults out there that fucking say this, and
I
people
know.
are watching that go, "Oh, I don't like fruit and vegetables," or like you go, they're like, "Oh, I like carrots and I like bananas." You're a child. You are a
Yeah,
child. Eat
yeah.
some
Just
other
eat different
food.
veg.
Branch out a little bit. You wouldn't read the same book 10 times in a row, or maybe you would. I don't know. Sheltered human being.
Sheltered human
You
being.
know. This is
But
why I have to
again,
bring that
like,
point.
but again, with blood tests, everybody who gets the blood test, coaches say, right, let's get some blood. Let's go and have a look and see what's going on. And they go, yeah, everything's all right there. That's a
Oh,
little bit
every
of
time. Nobody ever has bad bloods. Bloods are fine. I
bloods are
don't believe
fine.
you.
No, exactly. I don't believe you've been running 3 grams. But
They look grey and they've got all like they're 33 and their fucking face looks like a chow, and it's like
yeah,
my bloods are
exactly.
fine. Like you look like you're about
Something's
to fucking
wrong.
die.
Yeah, something is wrong here. I think something is wrong.
You can see the blood pressure from their fucking forehead.
Exactly, yeah. But all they do is look for things that are either red or blue. And just because something is
Green,
not red or blue,
green.
um, green, what's
Yeah,
green?
green.
No green.
Meditex is green. If it's good, it's green.
Oh, Medichecks. I don't deal with Medichecks. I mean, obviously, I look at Medichecks bloods all the fucking time, but I don't deal with Medichecks. But just because something isn't in a highlighted color and it is just black doesn't mean that everything is okay. You can have something that is in range, but if it is on the lower end or the higher end of dog shit, then it is going to be correlated with something else because your body works in synergy.
And
Things like,
those ranges are just averages of what they've like surveyed. Just
yeah.
because you're outside of the what would be considered the natural range in either end doesn't necessarily mean, or you're within it, doesn't mean
Mm.
that that's okay for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's things like what are some of the biggest what's two of the biggest markers that you're going to have on blood tests that you're going to see as high as a bodybuilder?
High
Yeah.
is on phase. Give me a phase example.
A phase example, like
As in,
if you train hard.
oh, CK is going to be high.
Yeah,
Your,
creatinine.
your AST, ALT is probably going to be high.
Only if you are on gear.
When
What's
that's
another
what we're
thing?
talking
Muscle
about here. We're
breakdown.
talking about people that are smashing the shit out of drugs. Some
But
context for these bloods.
what about another thing that's basically like muscle breakdown? So if your creatinine is high, what else is going to be high?
Creatine kinase.
Yeah, that's your creatinine.
All right.
Yeah, EGFR.
Yes.
So yeah, your glomerular filtration rate. So that happens all the time in this industry, and it's really, really not surprising. Now, if doctors looked at the blood work and they saw high creatinine and high EGFR, they were just going to basically be like, "Oh my God, they're going to freak out, and you're going to fucking die, right? Because you're basically atrophying every single type of muscle tissue." But the thing is that that's always going to be high. Now, what are the things that we can actually put in that in order to fix it? Cordyceps. You've heard of cordyceps?
I haven't.
It's basically a mushroom, okay? That's all it basically is, and it is used to treat chronic kidney infections all of the time. It's a very, very good adaptogen that you can use, and you can run it for 2 months. That, along with NMN, so Strom have just brought out a particular NMN that's going to help in terms of reducing the creatinine levels, so you
The
don't feel
real
so
Slim Shady.
the real thing, yeah, Eminem, for that side of things. And supplementing nettle seed is also going to be very good because it lowers serum creatinine very rapidly, especially if you take it 3 times a day. So if your creatinine is exceptionally high, especially if you are a competitive bodybuilder, especially if you are taking gear, those 3 supplements are actually going to be very, very useful for you. But if you don't understand how to read bloods, then you're not going to understand how to actually sort the issue out.
My favorite is when you get people who claim to know everything about blood work and drugs, and then also claim that you can't fix problems with a proper diet or supplementation.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that pisses me off.
And
I
they're like,
fix
okay.
everything with diet.
They're like, you realize a lot of drugs are made from plants?
Yes, exactly. Our world has literally given us everything in the form of a medicine, but people are just so blindsided that they don't want to use it and they don't want
Well,
to learn
big
about it.
pharma.
That's the difference. They don't want to learn about it. Okay. And that's what really pisses me off. It's all
Well,
about,
you're a crazy voodoo lady, and big pharma knows
I
best.
am. I am voodoo. That was actually one of the things that somebody said to me. If you want to carry on doing your hippie voodoo witchcraft, then you go ahead. I'm like, okay, I shall. You carry on with your
Get the
arrogance. This is
tantric
what you want.
smoke out.
Yeah, yeah, I will. And my potion and my dolls and and my crystals. Don't forget the crystals. But I mean, you can't argue with the proof because once I get blood work back after 3 months of fixing people and they follow the program, then they're fixed. So, whatever, but carry it on. So this optimization in terms of like cycles and diet, and just because he does that, then I need to do it. And I mean, that's not being optimal at all. Do you know what else pisses me off? These posts that are going on about just concentrate on you because it's you against you. I'm sorry. No, it's not.
It's a
On a
competition
bodybuilding
of comparison
stage,
against physiques.
on a bodybuilding stage, it's you against the person fucking standing next to you.
The funny thing
It's not
is, all of these
competition
fuckers
about you.
all of these fuckers have done the John Jewett course. And he specifically says when you're designing a training program, you need to look at how you looked in comparison to your competition if you didn't win and think, what do they have that I don't have?
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
sport of comparison. If you've got something missing in comparison to somebody else, they're going to be like, you need to change this.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
One of my other things as well, weaker body parts, and that's been a lot actually recently as well, yeah. What do you think my weaker body parts are? Dude, unless you are on an Olympian stage,
doesn't fucking
everything's
matter. Doesn't matter. Well, there's the whole thing of the rate my physiques, which people do because they're a popular content because they get a load of traction because you've got a load of kids being like, "How do I look? Could I be a professional bodybuilder?" You're there, like, give it 5 years. Every single answer is you need to be bigger everywhere, bigger
Yeah.
everywhere. There's only ever a few times where it's like, "Oh, you're a top level pro. Yeah, maybe you need a little bit more bicep peak or some bit more sweep through the quad, a little bit more lat, and you'll be all right." But until you've got most things you aren't going to be able to make that assumption because you haven't got anything there.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
know. It's just you just weak everywhere.
Imagine looking at a piece of marble and being like, "How do I make that a masterpiece?" It's a long way to go, isn't there?
It's a very long way to go. So Michelangelo's David, you obviously know the very, very famous Michelangelo's David. Yeah. It took him 4 years to carve that out of solid marble. And when I say 4 years, I'm talking about all day, all night, repetitiveness.
In between the
Four
shagging
fucking
boys, yeah.
years. Yes, yeah, 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 that's the one. But 4 years to do that, being relentless in his craft and literally being so meticulous about everything without ever, ever, ever giving up and ever having a break. That took him 4 years to do that out of marble. Now, that is somebody who can literally chisel away. So, do you honestly think that you're going to have an Olympian style body and physique overnight? It's not going to happen. Bodies are not delivered via Amazon Prime, I'm afraid.
They're not.
You've got to work fucking hard about it. So don't concentrate on your weak body parts, especially if you've literally just done an amateur fucking PCA show as a first timer. Everything's weak, mate. You've
This
just
is
got
this is the other thing. PCA getting a shitload of hype, and
to.
it's is it because people don't want to do the NPC category in the UK? Is it that, or is it because it's just easier to be like, oh well, I do PCA and oh I've become second in the UK? You haven't. You haven't.
It's a
You're not the best physique in the UK. You're in the second run federation, and you need to sort of acknowledge that. They acknowledge that. So
Mm.
maybe you guys need to sort of get a reality check and be like, if you want to be one of the best in the world, you have to compete in the best federation in the world. Stop kidding
It is.
yourself. Like,
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't mind the PCA. I think that the
no,
PCA
it's
in
nice,
like an
but
amateur
don't fucking
show.
overhype it.
It is overhyped, I do think that it is overhyped, but to go and obviously be on a
It's just
PCA
realistic.
stage.
It's a really good start point. Like
Absolutely,
an
yeah.
excellent federation to start. When I first started competing, I did the student federation, which was one show a year, which was the
Mm,
Mr. University as it used to be called, and then I think they couldn't call it that anymore. And I think after I'd done it, they maybe had one more year and it got shut down.
mm.
But there was PCA available at the time because they had stuff like Body Power and it was there.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
I wasn't really too deep into what the amateur UK scene because I wasn't really thinking that I'd be that good at the time. But
Mm,
PCA was around, I just hadn't really got involved. And when
mm.
it came to coming back to compete as an assisted person, I was like, well, I'm not going to bother with any other federation. What's the point? I'm going to go straight to the NPC level to see where I'm at
Yeah.
because that's what I wanted to know. But plenty of people these days, you've got all them. You've got how many first timer shows in PCA was there this year? Six.
think it was about six, yeah.
There's so many shows. I mean, there's so many pro qualifiers as well now. There's just loads of shows, and it's great that bodybuilding is getting more popular. But in the fact that it's getting more popular is there are more pro cards, there are more entries to the Olympia. There's a whole lot more going on, and I'm not saying whether that's good or bad, but it certainly dilutes the pool.
It does dilute the pool just a little bit more so. I mean, I think everybody wants to pick and choose a show, which is quite good. And I think it does obviously it builds up. But see, there's pros and cons to everything with this because I did see a lot of physiques on stage this last year because I went to a lot of shows this year. And
Yeah,
I saw a lot of physiques that realistically should never have been on stage. Whether
but
it
then
be yeah, whether it be
you have
amateur,
both ends of the spectrum on this one.
yeah, absolutely. But literally should never have been on stage. I mean, we're talking about optimizing contest prep and all the rest of it, or even taking the piss a little bit out of the word. But if you are still fat, you are not to go on a bodybuilding stage. And that is it at the end of the day. And I'm just going to say this till I'm blue in the face because it makes a mockery out of bodybuilding. It really does. And regardless of what federation that you go in, I had this big conversation with a federation that I'm not going to name, but I used to be a judge on the table for. And I used to say to the head judge at that point, I said, if we see a specific person backstage and we think that they should not be on stage due to X, Y, and Z, over fat or whatever like that, can we deny them entry onto the stage? Because I'm not being funny, two bros do. Two bros say you're not going onto that stage because it's a mockery of it. It is a mockery. And I will stand by that because one, it's unfair on the federation. It's unfair on bodybuilding itself because we do take it as a serious sport, obviously. But three, it's unfair on the person getting on stage because all they're going to do is be pointed at and laughed at
Yeah,
and be taken the piss out of.
yeah. When I was still younger and like still working a job, I remember people at work being like, "Oh, should I get on stage? It'd be a right laugh." And I was there like, "Right, the tan costs 50 quid, the entry's 150. You've also got to pay your fee for the year." So that's going to cost you the best part of £300, and you've got to obviously stay overnight, get tanned up, and all that sort of stuff. You really want to turn up and spend that money to be embarrassed? Like, you really want to do
Mm,
that? Are you fucking
mm.
stupid? You can make a little joke out of it, and we can all have a laugh here, but like, you want to face the realities of it? You're gonna have a really shit day.
Yeah, totally.
You want to take the
Completely shit.
piss? Okay, fine. Let me take the piss out of you immediately. Like,
Yeah. I mean, if you lose a great deal of weight, if you lose like 40 kilos and that kind of thing, and you feel great about yourself, fucking fantastic. Go and get a photo shoot. Don't try and step on a bodybuilding stage because I'm doing it for me. No,
I,
do it
I
somewhere
was
fucking
I was
else.
talking about 40-year-old men that drink every day and are fat as
Oh
fuck.
yeah, 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 yeah. Now, there's loads of other categories and loads of other federations that you could go into in terms of things like you can get like a fucking pro card now in a category called Mums That Lift. What the fuck is that? I mean, really? I mean, I'd wipe the floor with all of them. Do you know what I mean? Because I've got a 19-year-old daughter who turned 19 today, by the way. It's her
Hey,
birthday.
oh, happy
Yeah,
birthday.
19. And I've got a 15-year-old son, and I look way more jacked than a lot of the women who do go on that stage who are mums that lift. But am I actually going to do that? No, I'm not because I think it's a fucking piss take. I
Think
really, really
we get a lot of participation medals in a lot of things these
do.
days. It's really infested bodybuilding.
Mm,
And it is money. It's money because the more shows you put on, the more money you make. And, that is the case of it. Like, we wouldn't have 57 guys qualified for Classic this year in the
mm,
Olympia if it didn't make money to do so. Like,
yeah.
so it does come down to money. And I'm not going to say that people should stop making money because it's great. It's great that
Mm.
it's earning more money, but it's generally the pros that earn more money. Uh,
Well, obviously.
rather than the athletes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those where we're sort of getting to a point where everything's becoming very diluted. But as you say, with people being too fat getting on stage, people turn up to a fucking PCA first timers. You're there like, why aren't you on on an NPC stage? What are
Oh
you doing?
God, yeah, no. But it's because it's first timers and they haven't got the confidence in order to do it, or their coach is basically in with the PCA and they're like, yeah, go and do the PCA because I've got 14 other first timers going into that one and I don't want to travel somewhere else. But yeah, some of the guys that I saw in terms of first timers on the PCA, I was like, holy shit,
Yeah,
as if you're a fucking first timer, man. Some of the physique guys as well. One guy was absolutely enormous.
yeah. Was, it,
I
was
was
he
like,
a
holy
Jake's
God.
client? Was he?
Was he Jace? No, Was he,
We
Jace?
were both at that show, and he looked fucking insane. I was like, "Why are you here?"
Oh, exactly. I know. I mean, he just kind of like waltzed on stage, and I was like, well, everybody else can go fucking home now because, but I mean, he was the epitome of beauty, though. In
Yeah.
terms of men's physique, he ticked every fucking box. He even
Well,
had a slight air of arrogance, which I do think that you need as a
needs
men's
men's
physique.
physique.
Yeah, you need it as a men's physique competitor. You do need to be slightly arrogant. It's the same
I
thing with bikini girls.
also name drop here, Mr. Chris Coles.
Oh,
Fucking,
yes.
they gave him third in every single show because they said he was too big for classic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the
Hmm,
other guys were
interesting.
small, and they were like, apparently that's what PCA were trying to fit for their shows. They didn't want guys that were too big. Rory Pickford as well had the same thing. They moved him up to open. Another lad as well.
Rory looked good as well.
Yeah, exactly. Very classic physique, and they were like, "You're too big." Like what? Like the guy's the right size for NPC Classic, and you're there like not classic, too big. What?
Yeah, it's very
Very.
strange.
But it's they're trying to differentiate themselves as a federation, aren't they? But it's like you're literally judging incorrectly. The judging standard
Yeah.
is quite clearly selected by the lead federations. Adhere to them, please. Like, but whatever,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
get to run their own rules, don't they? So whatever. If you're big enough and good enough, it's one of those where maybe you shouldn't be doing that federation.
Yeah, yeah, branch out, have a little bit more self-confidence in that kind of thing. I do find that a lot. Did you hear about what an actual introvert and an extrovert is in terms of like the actual terminology and what scientific studies have actually seen in terms of what determines an introvert and an extrovert?
Not really, no.
And do you know what? I found it really interesting because you know that I like geeking out in terms of brain science and shit like that. And it basically all comes down to dopamine and dopamine hits. So an introvert is not realistically like that quiet person, put baby in a corner type of person who doesn't want to be the life and soul of the party. It's just because they don't need as much social interaction in order to get the amount of dopamine hit that they require in order to be happy. Whereas an extrovert, who is that person who goes from person to person, a bit like a social butterfly, they just need more dopamine in order to, or more social interaction to hit that dopamine threshold, which
Right.
I found really, really interesting. And the only reason why I brought that back is because when people get onto a PCA stage as a first timer, or even as, a seasoned bodybuilder or whatever, and don't go to the NPCs, it's literally because that they haven't got that inner self-confidence and self-belief that they're going to be good enough on an NPC stage, which I think is actually like quite downgraded, really. Because it's like you said, if you want to be the best of the best of the best, then you have to go and compete on the best stage, and that is the NPC stage at the end of the day. It's what you have to do. You have to go and do that. And PCA is great in terms of like the level entry if you want to just build up some confidence and that kind of thing, especially from a first timer perspective. But I mean, I've got some of my guys and I look at them and I'm like, you're not doing PCA. You need to go and do two bros. Yes, I know it is more expensive. However, it's going to be a travesty if you get onto stage just on PCA because you will wipe the floor with people in two bros.
Yeah, it's great to do something like a warm up show if you need to get a bit of confidence. That's cool. And people who are like, don't call it a warm up show. It's not right. You can do a warm up show if you're good enough.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it can
Go
be
and start.
blindingly obvious. You can be too good for a federation. Sometimes there are some people that are just that good. I'm afraid to say, sport of comparison at the end of the day. So yeah, it is definitely one of those where that's interesting about the introvert thing. I must be an introvert then because I can fucking dip out of a situation pretty quick. But most people are like, you're so confident, and they're like, yeah, I don't think it doesn't really matter too much, does it? Like in that sense,
No, no.
whatever.
I have my level of peopling. Like the amount of travel that I did in terms of the shows this year, I was just like, okay, I am peopled out now. I have had enough socialization for a long time.
Yeah,
Funny. Right,
whatever.
what are we ending this on in terms of optimization?
A take home point.
Mm,
Um, Trying to be over optimal to the point where you don't sleep in the same bed as your wife
mm.
is the road to hell.
It is a little bit.
It's
And divorce.
you'd hope so at that point. Like, it just sounds like an extremely toxic relationship, does it not? But yeah, don't try and be overly optimal. Try and enjoy the process. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I get enjoyment from the process by progressing. And it's like, if you forget about progression for a bit and just think about having a bit of fun, but the progression comes from you just like, going away, having a bit of fun, and then come back to the gym and then progressing your lifts and all that sort of stuff. I'm not worrying about the exact specific angle of each individual rep in case there's some slight variation in that. And then you have to restart the whole set because you didn't quite get the optimal level of what you should have done in terms of progressive overload. Yeah, fuck off. like just lift the weights. And I know I do like a lot of pauses and contractions in reps and that sort of stuff. That's because I like to train like that. That's
Mm,
if I didn't like training like that, I wouldn't fucking do it.
exactly.
And especially with like my
Exactly.
legs, I just got, I've had years of problems with knees, so I have to do it, and it makes it training actually enjoyable rather than painful. So I
Yes.
just moved it across to other stuff, and it seems to work fine for me, and that's what I like doing. If you like chucking weights around a bit, obviously there's a relative level of please don't injure yourself. But if that's how you like to train, then go fucking train like that.
Yeah. If you're growing muscle in that kind of way, then grow muscle in that kind of way. But having like super, super fucking slow eccentrics, that's another one that annoys me. Or super slow movements or super slow reps. Just because some fucking scientist Milky Bar kid says that it's optimal, then maybe just kind of like, walk away from that just a little bit and just go and train and make sure it is an enjoyable process for you. But yeah, don't be too optimal. Just be optimal for you, I suppose. But yeah, not to the point where it drives yourself fucking nuts.
I think the main point for bodybuilders is get a fucking hobby. I don't care what it is. Do something else. If you're sat there
Mm.
on a rest day being like, I just want to go and train, you're fucking sad, mate. Like, go and have something else you do. Read a book, watch some movies, play some video games, get outside, touch some grass. Go do something that isn't just,
Going
oh,
ground.
I just watch bodybuilding YouTube on my rest days. That's when I get clients apply. I'm like, you got any hobbies? And they're like, oh, just the gym. I'm like, right, you're a dullard. Like, I don't mean to be rude, but like, you're a dullard. Like, you haven't got anything going on. And maybe you need to branch out a touch or understand what a hobby is and realize that maybe you actually do have other things other than lifting weights. Because if lifting weights goes badly, your life falls apart.
Indeed, indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that is about everything. Many thanks for tuning in as per the always.
That's been quite a spicy
Um,
episode, actually.
I thought it was quite a good one. It's
No,
quite a
I
good
mean, as
one.
in, it's a little controversial at points, which is what people want to hear.
Yeah, but I'm like that.
I think we both
I
are.
do the controversial shit. Yeah. I don't slide in with the masses.
There's no sugar coating.
No, no bullshit.
All right. Okay.
Okay, see you next time.
That's been the podcast. We'll see you in the next one. Like, share, subscribe, and all that nonsense. All right. Bye.
Bye.